Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Michael McMahon. We're honoured to acknowledge Lieutenant General Datuk Sheikh and Director General Defence Intelligence Malaysia, accompanied by Major General Matt Hall, Director, Defence Intelligence Organisation, Australia. We're also honoured to acknowledge the members of the Five Eyes Counter Improvised Threat Steering Committee in attendance this evening and the accompanying delegations. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, St Ambrose Primary School, Pottsville. From Victoria, Melbourne Grammar School, Grimwade House, Caulfield. And from Queensland, Belmont State School, Carindale. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Norman Richard Brown. Norman Brown was born on the 14th of August 1894, the only son of Richard Brown of the Sydney suburb of Leichhardt. He went on to work as a milk carter for the Fresh Food and Ice Company at Auburn and Granville. Brown enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in October 1915, shortly after his 21st birthday. He underwent training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 20th Battalion. He was first sent to Egypt, where the Australian Imperial Force was undergoing a period of training following an evacuation from Gallipoli. From Egypt, he went to France to fight on the Western Front, arriving in June 1916. Private Brown was with his battalion as it participated in the vicious fighting near the French town of Pozières. In early August 1916, the 2nd Division, to which Brown's 20th Battalion belonged, suffered the highest casualties in a campaign that was said to have left Pozières more densely sown with Australian sacrifice than any other place on earth. Nevertheless, Private Brown came through unscathed and went with the battalion to Belgium to rest. By November 1916, the 20th Battalion was back on the Somme, and on the 14th of November, it participated in a small operation to capture German positions near the French village of Flers. Not part of the original attacking force, the 20th Battalion provided companies to the front line after the attack began to reinforce those assaulting the line after they had suffered casualties. At some point during this attack, Private Norman Brown was in the front lines when an artillery shell burst nearby. He was struck in the head, arm, and leg. Despite being carried to a dressing station, Brown's wounds were too severe, and he died the following day. Private Norman Brown was buried in Dartmoor Cemetery at nearby Becordell-Becourt. After the war, his parents could not be traced, and so he has no epitaph. He was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Norman Richard Brown, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, had thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.